Welcome back, and we're still on President Tinubu's visit to Benue State. And joining us via Zoom, we have Gideon Inyom. He's a public affairs commentator. Good morning. All right. Now, before we go into the details of President Tinubu's visit, what exactly do you make
Oh,
of, the tragic incidents, the killings and the massacre that, happened in Benue State just a couple of days ago?
thank you um, for that question. But I want to say this, and I want to put it on record that that case was one out of many. It was not just an isolated case. There are so many attacks that have been carried on strategically and constantly within the Benue communities here in the past 12 years. So the Yerwata incident was not just an isolated case. It's a strategic, continued, and systematic acts of violence that has been carried out on Benue communities. So on the 13th of June, it was um, it was raining in Yerwata when the attackers invaded that community in the still of the night, when defenseless civilians were assumed to be safe, sleeping in their safe haven. And I want to also make this clarification. They did not attack these people in their homes. They were attacked in an IDP camp. It meant that these people were displaced from their various safe abodes. They moved into somewhere they felt safer. It was in that safe, it was in that assumed safe position or place of safety that they were attacked and killed defenseless.
All right, now moving on to President Tinubu's visit. Now, what do you make of his visit to the state? Of what significance is it to the people of the state, particularly those who were affected by this?
Well, I keep saying, and I have to, I want to say this very clearly. Leadership is about engaging the people. President Buhari did not come to Benue State because it was an act of benevolence. He came to Benue State because it was his duty, and the Benue people expected leadership to respond to at least the massacre or the genocide that had taken place in Benue. So leadership should always find ways to engage in the people, not just when they are in trouble. The people of Yewata were attacked on the night of 13th June. There was no government presence or any act of engagement with them until 3:48, within 48 to 72 hours before engagement came. And that engagement came basically because the people were agitated. They went over to the streets and protested. It was that protest that ignited national consciousness and got the whole world talking about it. That was when the president decided to visit. If you follow the events or the itinerary of the president as was released before his visit, he was scheduled to be in Kaduna for some project commissioning. But because of the protests that had heralded Benue State on Sunday 15th, 2 days after, that got the nation in mourning, that he decided to change his itinerary and focus to Benue. So his coming to Benue was very welcome. We welcome the president to have taken that initiative to come to Benue State. However, the coming would have also transformed to physical actionable points or actionable decisions that will further assure the people of the government readiness to secure our borders and secure our people from the constant killings that were going on unabated. And I also want to put this on record that the attacks in Benue, most of the attacks in Benue that have happened in the last few years, especially those that come within the border connecting Nasarawa and Benue. All those attacks originate from Nasarawa. The attackers come from Nasarawa, attack Benue communities, and vanish back into the Nasarawa state the corridor. So this has been a constant occurrence, and nobody has been able to quell that. I was expecting that with the president's visit to Benue, that corridor he will set up an investigation panel to investigate why those attacks why the Nasarawa door is open to attack Benue communities. Because you have a case where you have a neighbor who is hostile to you, smiling with you, but housing enemies that are killing your people. So that is the situation we have in Benue. And I was thinking that the president will have a briefing, because from what he came to Benue and said, it is obvious that the president has not been properly briefed, or he has not received enough security briefing to give him the correct picture of the nature of attacks that were going on in Benue. At least one positive I took from that trip was that his visit to Benue availed him the opportunity to have the real situation on ground and change the narrative of what the president had believed to have been the issue dealing the issues of security in Benue State. His visit also availed us the opportunity to have a direct conversation with him, which that direct conversation also led to new approaches that we are expecting that henceforth the president will be able to use the new knowledge, use the new information, and then give a new security directives that will be able to give Benue people the needed security they
But
deserve.
did it really give him the true situation of things on ground, considering that he did not actually visit the local government, the Yelwata local government, where this particular incident occurred?
Well, I would have loved that the president goes to that site and verify things and feel the emotion of that attack. He missed that opportunity to see the emotion, but at least he was able to feel it, because the Totif, His Royal Majesty, Professor James Ayache, was able to convey that message in very strong, emotional, bold, and courageous words that were able to hit the point hard. And I believe that before the president came to Benue, he had received security reports about the incident, and he was coming with some solutions he had prescribed, but coming to listen to what the Benue people had to say through the Toti, that had changed the prescriptions he was coming with. If you follow his response, you would have read through this this message that he Benue with a different prescription from what he was told by the people of Benue State through.
Gideon, are you still on the line?
That was going on in Benue. That for that magnitude of yeah, I'm still here.
All right, go ahead, please.
So for that magnitude of killing that has been going on in Benue State systematically and consistently, one would have expected that the president wouldn't have just been getting to realize 2 years into his government that this is the consistency and the nature of attacks that were going on in Benue State. So you would have seen that there's a wide leadership gap. His coming availed him the opportunity to get this gap closed up. So we are pregnant with expectation that the president will be able to, now that he understands the real situation in Benue, he will be able to proffer real solutions that will end this killing.
All right, but looking at his reception in the States, first of all, a public holiday was declared in Benue. And then we also have people coming out, on the streets to sort of welcome him. It was looking more like a state visit rather than a condolence visit. Now, what exactly was that about? What do you make of that?
Well, leadership has its gap. People have different models and approaches to issues. If I were in charge to coordinate the visit of the president, I would not have a fanfare. But other people have their own reasons how they do their own things. I will not judge them for what they do. But I can only say that the public also has a way of seeing things and the way they interpret things. So you have your own model of doing things, but you cannot also control how the public perceive your actions. And if you are in leadership, you should be conscious of how the people you are leading perceive you. Public opinion is very important. It's a very important component, part of leadership. So if you have a feedback of how your people react to certain actions you take and it doesn't resonate well with them, then you know that you haven't acted in place for the people. So I want to think that the people of Benue State, those who coordinated the reception of the president, to rather be a fanfare, they have failed to convey the emotion of the Benue people, the people who felt grieved, who were mourning the killings of their people. They definitely were not represented by that kind of reception. I will not admit to that kind of reception to represent my interest. So that's the way I feel about it.
Now, given the state of the violence that occurred and even the ones that have occurred previously, now what does it say exactly about our security operatives and our security system here in Nigeria, particularly in a state like Benue that is very prone to these issues?
Well, I would like to approach this from this perspective. Our security architecture is built on analog systems, and that will not work and function for a digital world. There's no way you will solve problems of 21st century with analog solutions. It's not going to work. Take, for instance, the war between the war between Iran and Israel. Now, we're talking about autonomous weapons in the 21st century, and Nigerian soldiers don't have the requisite training to framework. And that's a big bother to me. Take, for instance, the porous nature of our borders. Take, for instance, the topography of our communities. We have very large open communities, large expanse of land that are uninhabited. It means that we have very large open ungoverned land. And then you have a central security structure that is being controlled centrally. And then you expect a command structure to come from the center into the grassroots where the crisis or the theater of crisis is. You see that there's already a gap. And then when you are fighting such a war with analog systems, it already puts you in a disadvantaged position. So first, security has to be about the people. And if security has to be about the people, it has to come from the people. But the security architecture we have in Nigeria is not from the people, it's from the government. And what do I mean by from the people? Community level security structures must be set up in Nigeria. And that is why I welcome the comments of the Chief of Defense Staff, who say that credible and willing youth who should be trained at community level to help facilitate the process of securing their communities. That should be the way forward. And again, training of security personnel, as well as security investment in IT infrastructure is very important. And one of my fears about this current system is that we have a system where technology is available and terrorists are well funded and they can have access to some of these weapons. If the terrorists lay hands on some of these autonomous weapons before our structured or conventional security system, you can imagine the havoc they'll be able to carry out with such weapons. So we cannot take for granted investment in security, training, infrastructure, and deployment. And I think that government, if government is not thinking in this direction, they should start to think urgently, because autonomous weapons are very much around, and these terrorists are well funded, and they can have access to such weapons, and that will not be a good sign for our communities. This should pose a serious threat and challenge to anybody who is in charge of security policy development.
All right, and also, do you think this is more than just maybe a security issue? You know, maybe things like scarcity of land, or maybe lack of economic alternatives for both the farmers and the herders. Now, do you think this is also one of the causes of these killings and invasions, you know, in the area?
Well, most scholars will discuss these attacks or invasions along different scholarly theories, but I don't want to look at those ones. I'm looking at the reality of what we have on ground in Benue State. For instance, these terrorists are coming into Benue with an agenda that has been continuously pursued in the last 1 decade and a half now. They are coming into Benue at this stage not because there are contestations over land use. They are not coming to Benue because they are in demand of land, that the land is insufficient. They are coming to Benue to grab our land. The danger is that they are pushing out the ancestral and indigenous people who have been original occupants of these lands in the last 400 to 500 years. So how do you push, where are you pushing these populations to? As I speak with you, there are large populations in Benue that have been permanently displaced in the last 50 years. They have not laid foot on their ancestral homes. There are people in those communities that if they have their loved ones die or dead, they are buried in new settlements. So there is this consistency of these attacks and invasion with the same pattern: come in, kill, push them out, and occupy. So this is not just about contestations over land, because the land is large enough. If you come into Benue, you want to sell land, you will never lack land, because the land is very massive. There are still larger chunk of lands in Benue State that is still not cultivated for a very long time. There are still open lands that if you give room to ranching and if you give room to farming, everybody will be smiling without death occurring. There is this pattern. There's this pattern that's been going on, and a narration that has gradually becoming a norm. That herders are looking for land, which I think is also posing these questions. If herders are looking for lands, there are laid down guidelines and rules that govern such things. In democracy, nobody has the monopoly. Nobody should have a monopoly of violence except the government. But it seems that the headsmen or the terrorists or their sponsors have found it very comfortable using violence as a way of intimidating and killing people and pushing them out of their legitimate ownership of a land resource. And if anybody want to give that a credibility, then it's unfortunate. But I think that given the framework of democracy, everybody is entitled to their way of life. We cannot stop the herders from being herders, but we want them to also accommodate other people's rights within their rights of herding, so that the people with the right to farm will also farm. So what regulates this relationship? It is the law. Are they acting within the law? No, they are not. How can you feel that you have need for land, and then the justification for you is to kill other people so you take over that land? That is unacceptable, and it's not even It shouldn't even be a discussion on the table.
All right, so this sounds like an issue of land grabbing, by
Exactly.
these people. So and the
Exactly.
president actually, vowed to fight this issue of land grabbing. So now, in your opinion, in what ways do you think that the government can, tackle this issue of land grabbing among the herders?
Well, society is not regulated by mere conscience. Society is regulated by law, order, and sanctions. But in a place where any of the tripod of law, order, and sanction is weakened, the society can no longer hold together. And I think that the Benue State people have also drawn the roadmap to this crisis. They have gathered and agitated for the government to give them a law that protects them, more like I built my own, build a legal fence around Benue community so that nobody will have the justification to walk in freely and graze, thereby causing the skirmishes in quote, as they love to call it, or conflict over land resource. So we secured our borders, locked it up with the open grazing prohibition and ranches establishment law of 2017, which came into effect in 2017. And we were of the assumption that states would also follow this example, and then all our states will be protected such that anybody who comes or who wants to do animal husbandry or go into animal production, we go through the guidelines, secure approvals, and set up ranches so that you do not have reasons to incur into the rights of farmers doing their own legitimate farming as well. So this is what I feel, that the government of Benue State should be encouraged to protect their citizens by the federal government giving the state backing to protect the citizens through the instrumentality of the Benue anti-grazing law.
All right, and then the president also had a town hall meeting with governors and some traditional rulers and some security heads. In your assessment, do you think that these high-level meetings would offer any form of real policy changes, or it's just one of those meetings where they sit down and they talk, and at the end of the day, nothing happens?
One takeaway from that, the president town hall meeting was his declaration that there should be an elders committee that should be formed with the past governors, the current governor, the traditional rulers, and they should sit together and marshal out a plan on how we can prevent this occurrence from further degenerating. So I think that that was a positive outcome from that town hall meeting. But I also want to say this: there is nobody that can sit alone as a leader and have monopoly of knowledge to do everything by themselves. So I think that that stakeholder engagement is very important aspect of leadership that shouldn't be ignored. And I think that stakeholder engagement should not just be about when there is a crisis. It should be a continuous exercise between the led, the governed, and the led. So in the case of Benue State, we have we have about 3 or 4 former governors who are from Benue State here, and they have various experiences that are still valid, that will still be very useful, stemming from their experiences, their weaknesses, their strengths, and having been on the saddle and now being as spectators, they would have been better placed. Why the reason why you have players, I mean, in the game of football, the reason why you have people who have played on the field do better as coaches is that they have passed through the tough. They understand the game. They know the 90 minutes strength of a player. So when they are sitting outside, they are able to tell you that in the first 30 minutes of this game, this is how you should push it. So if the leadership will come together with the past governors who have had various experiences in leadership, I believe that they'll be able to marshal out a plan. And if they sit with the traditional rulers, I also feel that that's a positive direction to go, because these are the people who are at the grassroots. We have a situation where the president has admitted that he was given a mixed security briefing. So if that is the situation, you can imagine the positive impact of this town hall meeting. And you should also see that calling for regular town hall meetings will not be out of place. I do believe that leadership should be about engagement. If you are leading people, you should be able to have constant conversations with them so that you are able to understand their issues firsthand and not depend on third-party engagement to give you reports of what's happening among the communities. So this should be a constant issue. I mean, this should be a constant engagement between our leaders and the people. And with that, we will be able to bring all our resources on the table and see which will work for us now, which we can wait for later, and which will be adapted to end this crisis.
Now, let's look at the humanitarian angle of this and the role of NEMA. Now, looking at Nigeria's humanitarian architecture, do you think that we have the capacity to absorb these new IDPs that have, sprung up due to more displacement of people? Do you think we have enough capacity? Are we sufficient enough to absorb these new IDPs and cater to them?
I think that Nigeria has a long way to go when it comes to issues of humanitarian management and all of those things. Because looking at the global trends, if you have a crisis at hand, you should be regular with updating the citizens of what is happening, how you are handling the crisis, and solutions that you are proffering to cushion the effect of such a crisis. But in the Nigerian context, we have government agencies that have been set up with mandates that are outdated and they have not been reformed. How can you serve? NEMA was set up with a mandate that clearly cannot solve the problems of the IDPs now. But have we reformed NEMA to be able to contain the demands of the current humanitarian crisis? I don't think so. For instance, and I want to make this point very clear, the Benue State humanitarian crisis has not been put or recognized by the federal government of Nigeria. We have had camps set up in Benue State here. These camps have only been at the instance of the state government and some civil society interventions. We have not had a concerted effort or concerted directive of the federal government to take care of the humanitarian crisis in Benue State. So it's more like the Benue people have been left to their fate. And this will be also calling on the federal government. And one of the expectations of the protest was that the humanitarian crisis in Benue State should be taken over by federal government, and those people begin to receive a dignified response from the crisis, from the humanitarian crisis in Benue, so that we can begin to provide them with the necessary tools that they need to begin to live as human beings who have rights and privileges, and not just people who have been relegated to undignified patterns of life.
Now, since this incident occurred, many promises have been made, warnings have been issued, committees have been formed, and yet no significant arrest has been made so far. Now, what do you think about, this turnout?
Well, before I go to this point, let me add to the fact that the people who were attacked from Yerwata, they were moved to a designated settlement where there were expectations that they will be taken care of. As at yesterday, that I was aware of, there was no any assistance or food or any form of attention that was given to them, apart from humanitarian efforts that have been coordinated for these people. So that's on that part. And I think that that's an area that government should look into immediately, because these people have been through so much, not to also continue to suffer under hunger, rain, and other dehumanizing situations. So coming to the question you just asked, the issues of arrest in this crisis or this attack, we have not had. I'm not aware of any arrest that has been done. And mind you, it is not just about Yerwata. Like I told you, these attacks have been sustained over the last decade. We haven't had any known trials of these attackers. And as long as these people get away with these acts of violence against innocent civilians on Nigerian soil, they will be more emboldened to carry out these attacks. As we are speaking, we are still receiving reports from communities about letters of intent from these terrorists that have indicated interest to attack communities. Whether these threats are valid or not, the people are already agitated, the people are scared, the people are living in fear, and this fear is rightly justified, because the terror that they have had to contend with will give them every reason to fear. We are Nigerians, and there's no body that is more Nigerian than the other. And we have also received credible information that most of these attackers are not even Nigerians. So one begins to wonder, why is the Nigerian government so in bed with terrorists who are coming outside of our Nigerian defined borders to attack our people, and they are able to find protection? In one of the videos circulating on the internet, one of the videos of a man who comes from Yerwata, saying that one of the persons who was apprehended during the attack in Yerwata had confessed that there were military personnel who were with them on that mission. That was why they were able to have that kind of precision carrying out such attacks on civilian communities. So these are very valid concerns, and if those kind of accounts are filtering out after incidents like this, then you should understand why arrests will not be made. It means that there is complicity within the security architecture, and then one begins to wonder, why will the government be paying a security agent who will also be double dealing on the part of terrorists? I remember a video that had come out before on Channels Television years ago about the dreaded terrorist, gang leader in Benue State, Lete Wasagwaza, who had said in that video that he was approached by the Fulanis to fight on their side to take over Benue. This assertion has not been investigated. This assertion has been with us, and any of the subsequent attacks that have happened on Benue soil have all alluded to those kind of situations or conspiracies. So the people of Benue State are constantly living in fear of terror, of unverified information that has been filtering around our communities. And the fact that responses from government or government security agencies come very late. They've only come to verify the number of people that have been killed. Even in those situations, they have not been able to give the exact numbers as aligning with the numbers of the community leaders that those attacks have been taking place. So there's a whole lot of issues that we are dealing with here that will cause apprehension at all points. So government will have to act fast to close these gaps and give the people of Benue State, especially the vulnerable communities, a sense of belonging, a sense of assurance, and a sense of nationhood, that they are protected under the Nigerian state.
But do you think that state level of community-based, security structures would help or would be more effective in situations like this?
Absolutely. If security is given back to the community or grassroots level, it will enhance intelligence gathering. Because, for instance, the attack in Yewata, according to the CDS, as reported in national dailies, it says that the attackers were housed and taken to the community by the community members. One begins to wonder, if that information is true, why will the people be setting up their own people? Even if it's true, can it be justified? No. Is the state protecting our people against such infiltrations? No. If we have security gathering and the security is at the grassroots and there's a structured reporting system, those kind of incidences will be stemmed, because the community level security setup will be able to detect such infiltrations and report them to the appropriate authorities, and action will be taken before those mayhem will be taken on the people. So security at the grassroots will enhance the security architecture or security guarantees for our people. That I can guarantee that.
All right. Now, beyond the condolences, now what do you think the government's plans should be when it comes to economic recovery, particularly for the affected persons and Benue State as a whole?
Like I said, if we put all these attacks in perspective, the economic losses to the Benue people are enormous. But because we have a data gap in Nigeria, we cannot authoritatively say that this is how much we have lost in terms of Naira and Kobo. But if we can put that in estimates, we are losing billions of Naira, because our states have lost its production capacity up to 50%. Most of our local communities are no longer producing. Food prices have skyrocketed due to the inflation and the fact that we have less food compared to what we've had before. For the very first time in Benue State, a tuber of yam is selling in Benue State for up to 4,000-5,000 naira. This is unimaginable. Nobody would have believed that food would cost this much in Benue. A fruit of a mango costs between 700 to 1,000. This is as a result of low production, and because our people are not producing. All these are economic losses. If we are to put this into perspective, then you can see how much the state is also losing in revenues. So the federal government will have to step up its responsibility to marshal out a plan that the people can recover from this non-production. Because as we stand, if we do not go back to producing what we can eat, then there's a more serious food security issue that will be faced with in the next couple of months leading to a year or two. Because, one, the people at the IDPs, they are no longer going to their farms, and they are in numbers. Makurdi alone has over 800,000 IDPs. Consistently over the years, over 4 million people have been displaced. If Benue is a population of, let's say, 12 to 13 million people, and we're saying that 50% of that population is not producing, it means that the ones that are producing will not be able to cater for that population. Benue State has been christened the food basket of the nation. It is because of the food production that was coming out of this state. But I can tell you that where we stand now, Benue basket is no longer fit. It doesn't have enough to even take care of our small nuclear families, talk more of producing enough for commercial agriculture or subsistence living. So the federal government, the state, should begin to think of securing our lands and bringing it back to the people so they'll be able to go back into their normal way of life, which is food production. Otherwise, the losses are enormous, and it's going to be worse in the next couple of years if nothing is being done deliberately and intentionally.
All right, and now the president has come and gone. What reforms or improvement do the people of Benue hope to see following this visit of the president?
Personally, I'll be direct. I'm not expecting a committee as a way to end, as a solution to solving this problem. I'm expecting decisive action. I'm expecting that if the president had discovered that he was given mixed security briefing, that is a breach of national security already. And I am thinking, and my expectation is very high, is that those responsible for such misinformation, there should be consequences. And I'm expecting that not just arrests should be made, but people should be prosecuted and punished for these acts of violence and deliberate genocidal killing of our people. I'm also expecting that, and the Benue people are also looking forward to the government of Nigeria standing up to the occasion to provide protection, especially around the corridors between Nasarawa and Benue states. If the federal government can set up an independent commission to investigate the remote causes of the attacks, why they are who is housing the terrorists in Nasarawa state, and why hasn't there been any closure or an end to that accommodation of terrorists who operate from that zone, killing people into Benue communities, stretching up to Goma, Makudi, Logo, Taka, and Buruku local government, because these are the border communities that are closer to the Nasarawa state border, and all these communities have reported that those attacks have been coming from those, including Agatu. Those attacks have been originating from Nasarawa state. And Nasarawa state has paid a lip service to paying solidarity to the Benue people without exposing the real source of the killer squad. Why are they always coming from Nasarawa? Why hasn't Nasarawa exposed or dismantled such terror attacks on Benue people?
All right, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on this, Gideon Inyom. Thank you so much. We do appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.